Hey, gorgeous. Welcome to the Bernadette Jackson Podcast, where we are redefining how the world views women with daddy issues by discussing topics, sharing stories, and gaining insights, all from the perspective of a fatherless daughter. I'm your host, Bernadette, the creator of Her Way Relationship Intensive and your favorite fear investigator. If this is your first time here, here's what I want you to know. The fear of abandonment and rejection is the lens through which fatherless daughters do most things. It informs how they show up in every relationship. Most fatherless daughters are operating in the fear of abandonment cycle, and they don't even know it. Each week, I focus on a topic that highlights how fear shows up in our lives, either through conversations with others or deep dives into the insights that I have. If you'd like to know if you're on the fear of abandonment cycle, go to BernadetteJackson.com/FOA cycle and take my free assessment. Again, that's BernadetteJackson.com/FOA cycle. So we have Derrick Jones on the show with us today. He is a certified life and relationship coach, a mental health advocate, and a 21-year NASA engineer. He has chosen to use his decades of analytical skills, strategy, and troubleshooting to map out some of the mysteries of human behavior in a way that is understandable to all learning levels. After realizing a large number of our population has their own life experiences, emotional hangups, and weren't taught how to foster a successful relationship, the Relationship Gumbo brand was born. By utilizing a unique perspective and equally unique tools, he helps people unscramble their overthinking in order to map out a focused path towards successful dating, relationships, and communication. Derrick, thank you so much for coming to the show, man.
Thank you for having me. I feel like I don't even know who wrote that. Who wrote that?
Look, man, when I read that, I was like, oh, I'm impressed. Okay, sir. Coming out the gate. So I want to jump straight into it because when I first heard about your brand, I was like, oh, this is so intriguing. Because who else is going to liken relationships to great recipes? So I was like, I have to know more about relationship gumbo. I have to learn more about this because it is so cool that you do that, because I teach my clients something very similar in that great relationships are like great recipes. And they have 3 unique ingredients as far as I'm concerned. So it's like the flavor profile, it's the quality ingredients, and then it's the step-by-step instructions.
Right.
So for me, like the flavor profile is your needs, your desires, your preferences, and then you got the quality ingredients, which are the 2 people coming together who are healed and whole. And then you got the step-by-step instructions, which is how you treat yourself and ultimately how you tell people to treat you. So I was like, I wonder if his approach is similar, especially since, you know, you got this whole gumbo thing going on, you know, down the South in the gully and all that. I'm like, oh, what is his relationship gumbo all about?
Yeah, you know, you know what the funny thing is? I don't even eat gumbo, right? but I tried to find like a food that, depending on who makes it, they can put in whatever they want because it's unique to them and their palate. So that's why I came up with the name, and it lends itself when I talk about ingredients and people, when I tell them I'm an engineer, they're like, how you're a relationship coach? Like, I don't, but what happened was when my dating and relationship history makes me probably about 94 years old. So with that, plus just having this analytical engineer mind, I'm able to see someone's profile and look like 10 layers deep because I'm trained to look for the flaw, if you will, and try to figure out the origin point so we can build it back up. So when I look at stuff, people are like, oh, I'm mad. I'm like, wait, why? And then I'm going all the way down. Okay, cool. So your problem really is you don't understand the love language. Instead of you saying the person makes me mad, so you tweak that little piece of the recipe And then everything else starts to change. And then I'm like, you know what? There's something to the way this crazy brain of mine works, because it's really like attention to detail. So I just made it into a brand, and I'm helping a lot of people just like you are. So it's purpose driven.
Definitely. I love that. And so your approach is engineering, and mine is the fact that I used to be a chef. So I already know, like, it really takes quality ingredients for a recipe, even a simple one, to be exceptional. And so I'm like, when I think about that, and when you think about, like, the flavor profile and how you layer things together, just like you were saying, to really create the dish and what you want, I'm like, there is something to this in terms of relationships and how you create it and all of that. So I completely get you. I'm like right on board with you there with all the layers and all that. I'm like, yep, you speaking my language now. I get it. So speaking of relationships, how long have you been a girl dad?
Oh, it's 12 years going on 13 now.
Oh, wow. So you're right there in the middle of things.
She right there with the hormones and the puberty and all of that. So
yeah. Oh, I know that well. Yeah. My daughter is 13, so I know exactly what's going on. So yeah. How has that been for you?
It's been fruitful. She's had her challenges, just life challenges, and being able to kind of maneuver life just like anybody else. But she's a mini me. So she's an analytical brain. And as a kid with and they're so much smarter at their ages now. They have access to so much. And she uses that mastery of analytics to try to beat me in the argument or beat me, because she'll always be technically right. Even though the act is wrong, she'll find a way to make herself right. And then you have to stop yourself and say, well, she is right, but I'm still the parent. Do what I tell you to do.
Exactly. Okay. Like, I feel like you're describing my daughter to a T. The amount of times that I had to sit back and like, you know what? Like, technically you're right, but guess what? I'm bigger. I'm older. Like, this is how we're doing things. Okay.
Right. Exactly.
So I definitely get that. What would you say is maybe the biggest thing that being a girl dad taught you about yourself and about girls?
I think for me, because I already, just from what I do as a coach and just my life experiences, I tend to be a little more emotionally intelligent than most of the men, or most of my peers. So I came at this. A lot of men, when we have daughters, they say we get them honestly because of the lives that we live, and I got the right one. So for me, it was kind of like one of the hardest things for men is discipline with girls, and knowing what that looks like. Because it's a girl, we kind of, we want to treat it with kid gloves, but then that's not necessarily what they need in order for them to grow. You have to be a little more stern. They need to see that you're the father figure in this. And that was hard for me. But you want to know something funny that always makes me come back to center? Maury Povich. You remember those shows where they would bring the little teenagers on and they would just go, they'd be wilding out. Oh, I slapped my mom. And I was like, my kid will not be that. And then so when I wanted to be soft, I was like, wait, nope, you're not going to be that kid that was on that show. That scared the crap out of me. So I was like, okay, so this is, okay, Derrick, right the ship. She's a girl, but she's still doing something wrong. So you got to make sure she don't turn out like them. That was my bar.
That is hilarious.
And it has served me well this whole time.
Yeah, that's so funny that those kids on that show is really what gets you in the right frame of mind to be able to be like, you know what? This needs to happen right now.
If not that, like, we're not, like, the other thing too, just to add on real quick, I grew up, and probably you grew up, in a culture where people got whoopings and spankings.
And
that was something that I did it in the beginning because this all I knew. But then when I looked at her and realized that this kid is not this, that they're different now. They're a little more emotionally charged. And when I realized that she wasn't accepting it as a punishment, she thought that meant I hated her, the person. And when I
Mm-hmm.
saw that in her eyes, I was like, who does she become if I keep doing this?
Right.
And then I
Right.
stopped, and I never went back and did it ever again. And I
Yeah.
had to learn more communication skills and paying more attention to her and seeing the nuances of her to understand how to navigate the discipline. But it's hard when you're a guy and you're seeing a little girl cry and you just want to shake them and you like, I can't
Mm-hmm.
do that
Mm-hmm.
because what is she going to think of men? What is she going to think of me? Is she going to be a daughter that's open to me or closed to me based on how
Mm-hmm.
she sees me? So yeah, it's been a roller coaster ride because
Yeah.
she pushes the envelope. So
This is the
she wants to see
age.
how far you're going to go, and
Exactly.
it's a balancing act. But I wouldn't trade it for anything.
Yeah, like honestly, just what you were saying there in terms of like knowing who she is to her core and her nuances and stuff like that. How do you think that that has changed how you view and treat women in general?
Oh, this is a good question. I think through seeing her, and also a testament to what you do for fatherless daughters,
Mm,
and even and I learned a lot even just from you, just knowing you about how this affects people. But when I looked at my life and all of the bad things that I did in relationships as a means of trying to cure my own hurt,
mhm.
seeing her, shudder at different things and they're paying attention to me, I'm thinking about other women that I've crossed paths with and what they could have been going through to make them susceptible to some of the things that I was doing, right? That's why
Right.
I said those of us who've done all of these egregious acts, we end up with daughters.
Mm,
It's real. And so that is another thing that makes me stop and think about how she sees me, because that's going to dictate the trajectory of her life, whether she knows it or not. And even when she's doing stuff that's just making me, and I'm like, wait, you have to be an example to her, because these, especially right now with the hormones and all of that, I know
mhm.
she's going to want to detach because she's turning into a teenager. But I always let her know every day, I got your back. Daddy's here.
Mhm.
If you need me, I'm here. Call me. We can talk. Don't be afraid. Even if she doesn't, I want those words to ring in her head every day so that she
Right.
knows that when that time comes that she can lean back and I'll be there for her.
Mhm. Yeah,
So,
definitely. I really love that, especially because sometimes I feel like even as young women, we still have this innate desire to be pursued. And, for the men in our lives, especially our fathers, to be there and to also to be present and to actually say that they are, not just, thinking it. Because sometimes we
mhm,
feel like just the physical presence alone is enough. And sometimes it isn't. Like, if your daughter doesn't translate that to feeling loved and cared for, she may see you there every day and still not feel like you were intentional with your relationship with her.
right.
So I'm really glad, and I would love when I hear that fathers are super intentional about like how they communicate with their daughters and stuff like that.
And
So
that and real quick, not to
mhm.
I hate saying not to cut you off when I'm cutting
You
you
ain't
off,
got to say that.
but
You good.
I learned that last part from you though, about
Uh-huh.
the fatherless daughters and one of those things being an emotionally unattached but present or something to that.
Right. Right.
Had no clue that was a thing,
Mm-hmm.
but it makes a lot of sense. And even from that point, after you came on my show, it really made me think about that, and
Mm-hmm.
it translates into a lot, like over time, emotional availability from a man, and most of us aren't really used to doing that anyway. It's a
Yeah.
huge thing.
Yeah, you're absolutely right about that. So then with that understanding now and just, the wanting to tap into who your daughter is and making sure that she knows that you're intentionally present, how do you think that has improved your relationships with the women in your life?
Um, I'm gonna be honest. I think I was already on a path of improving relationships with, because it's not a whole lot. It's like my mom,
Mm-hmm.
my wife. I don't have a whole bunch of interactions with a lot of women on a personal level, but
Mm-hmm.
it lends you another level of sensitivity. Because for me, because my brain just goes all, I'm always the tinkerer trying to figure out how things work with human behavior. And to look at even my wife or my mom, to think about like where they came from, what have they gone through, and how can I, as the man, even as a son or a husband, how can I be empathetic to some of those things to be able to make the relationships grow even better? And then my daughter comes along and it's like somebody upstairs was really trying to test me. So it's a lesson in understanding, a lesson in patience for me, and really understanding the nuances of what she needs from me. And then I lend that to even my marriage and really digging deep and seeing what she really needs from me. Because I think a lot of men, we like to look at what we get. Right. And a lot of times we don't look at what the woman needs because we want to be quote unquote served. We want you to do this and do that. And I'm the man. And we don't really think about where you've been. So I think like my daughter is almost like looking at the origin story of a lot of these relationships and women that I've met, my wife, my mom. Where did they start? If she's doing this, what happened to make them this? And am I contributing to possible triggers to those things? Or am I a place of peace? Am I a place of happiness to assist in that? So yeah, it makes you think. What makes me think? I know a lot of people, I tend to look at things a little bit deeper than most since I was a kid, because my mom was like, you know, if the English teacher marked the paper up, my mom would say, no, the teacher missed all of these. You need to go back, find that problem. And that's how I became this guy, because she was like, no, you're going to clean the bathroom 3 more times because you didn't get behind the things and you didn't go on those little knobs at the bottom of you need to do that. Oh, you did 1, but not 2. And so my mind inherently is trying to figure out how to make it as good as possible. How does this work? How does this go together? So yeah, looking at my daughter and as analytical as she's gotten, that honestly, as analytical as I am, and it's fruitful to watch that little plant grow, if you will. But it's also, like you said, to my current relationships, it gives you a little level of sensitivity to understand that you know, even though she's quote unquote, you know, she has both her parents and blah blah blah, there's still these nuances that we take for granted. Yeah. And when you look at these grown women, my wife, my mom, and you look at the things they do, and you be like, why is she? And I'm like, wait, she used to be little like this too. So
yeah, I definitely get that. So with what you're saying, just to expand on it a little bit, how would you describe your relationship with your daughter? You said that she's just as analytical as you are, and you talked a little bit about that, but can you give us a little more, like, what is that relationship like?
I would say we're super close, or at least we have been until like this past year when all the little things start happening. But the foundation is there. I am probably the only adult that she knows that actually gets her. Because I understand her mind. She's curious. She wants to know how things work. Her interests change every couple of weeks. She's just trying to figure it out. And when she goes off the deep end and the ship needs to be put in the center, I'm the only one that speaks the language that she understands. So that's like my role. Like even when she's not from my wife, but even when she's with her mom is like, Derrick, I need you to talk to her to get her back. Because the way that she and I, you know, in the beginning of, you know, when she was born, I had to run up and down the road. She always saw me present. She always saw me doing things. So that fostered a close relationship with her, even up to this point. Whenever she has a question, she says, hey, Dad, I'm calling you because you're the one that always knows everything. And you told me not to Google everything. So can you please? And I'm like, I don't know everything, but thank you for thinking that of me. And she's like, I just want to make sure that I'm being told the right way. So that's our relationship. Like she always, even in her not necessarily wanting to, because you know how kids are, they want you to drop them off at the corner, they don't want you, all of that stuff. Even with that, she knows that this is a place where she can come back to, and we just flow. When we go out places, it's like, you know what, this is what we've always done ever since she was a toddler. It was me and her. We going everywhere, we buying the clothes and doing all this other kind of stuff and letting her pick what she wants, even at 3 and 4. And this is just how, you know, it's a very unique dynamic, because the conversations a lot of times, especially, and I know you know this, don't sound like a parent talking to a little kid, because their vocabularies are so I mean, we have a really close relationship in that sense. And like I said, this past year with the cycle and everything else that's happening and all of that, starting to change a little bit. But I'm glad that I was able to kind of at least give her a foundation of what it looks like for her dad to be present, for her dad to even understand her. In a lot of places normally where it would be the woman, it's something that inherently in her that we connect in that way. And I have to, like, she's the type of person, you can't surprise her. She doesn't do surprises. I need to know in advance. So I know, because I know who she is, okay, on Friday, this is what's going to happen, so that she knows what's coming, so we don't have no issues.
Right.
I pay attention to her in that way, and she appreciates it. She's like, yeah, Dad, I don't like surprises. Can you tell me what's going to happen? So we've been doing this for so long that she knows what to come to me for, what not to come to me for. We want to have some fun. Because I'm in tune with her, like even stuff like, you know, that men don't really get into, like dress size and all this other, I know all of this stuff because I'm the one in the store shopping for the clothes with her. Like, we do all of that.
Right. So with her interests changing like every couple of weeks, how do you contend with that? Because sometimes I'm telling you right now, like there's a sizzling in my spirit about this right now, because I'm like, my daughter is the same way. And I have noticed that she will be super duper duper intensely interested about something, to the point where like all the things that she can do to be excellent at this thing need to be like purchased and at her fingertips like immediately, because this is what she's on. And then a smooth like month, three months later, it's like, yeah, I don't want to do that thing anymore. I'm like,
oh yeah, same thing. She wanted to learn. She watches like these anime cartoons, and she wanted to learn Japanese. And we bought all these Japanese books. We got her a Japanese tutor. She wanted to learn the language. And then like a month later, she was like, yeah, I want to learn Korean. And I'm like, okay. And then after Korean, it was some other thing. And then now she don't even want none of the languages. Then she was like, I want to learn sign language. And then she was like, no, now I want to, you know, now it's ever changing, and it's hard to plan things. It's hard to buy stuff for her because you don't know what the interest is from month to month. But that just means her brain is, eventually something's gonna hit. She, you know, if you ever wanted them to learn different things, she's on the track to learning a whole lot of different things. She's just trying to find herself. So I allow space for it, and I don't assume what she likes. I have to keep asking her, because I'll get the wrong thing, and then that'll be another thing. So I just try to, you know, it's almost like kind of keeping your ear to the streets. You got to know what they're into, especially now, because they be trying to be sneaky.
That is so true. Like, but I love what you said there. Like, you don't assume what she likes. You have to ask her. And I think that that's even true in adult relationships. Like, we swear up and down that we know like what our partners want and like. And sometimes like you really have no idea. So I really love that you said that, because that right there is a piece of advice that I think everybody could use. So what would you say that you've had to do in terms of like searching yourself, your views, your beliefs, your habits, to make sure that you are intentional about raising your daughter?
In this particular case, because me and her mother are not together, it for me, because like I come from a 2-parent household, like I come from a really good family. So a lot of these things that I saw and learned growing up were instinctual. Like I was just doing what my dad did for me. It wasn't difficult for me. Because because he did a lot. Even though he wasn't like the most emotionally intelligent person, he was present. He made sure we knew he did the stuff. So when I had her, it was instinctual for me to just repeat that, and it helped me along. The biggest challenges was, not being with the mom, and the nuances that come along with two different backgrounds and two different ways to try to raise the kid, and those battles were the biggest struggles for me. But the actual like parenting of her, it wasn't difficult, because I like in this lends itself to people who do or don't maybe have parents and what it looks like, but I saw it. So I was like, okay, cool. Let me just do what I saw. And it worked out for me for the most part. I was very, had a very grounded, the parenting that I had was very grounded. And so when I had her, I was like, okay. And people was like, oh, are you afraid to be? I was like, no, I'm not afraid. I'm just doing what I'm repeating history here. So
Right. So with that, like, speak a little bit about, that you said that, you had a good upbringing and you're just doing what you were taught. So what would you say is your approach to parenting your daughter? Before we get back into this week's goodness, I want to invite you to join my private Facebook community, H.E.R Coalition. I make it my business to create safe spaces for fatherless daughters to learn, grow, and heal, and H.E.R Coalition does just that. We go deeper into conversations about the things that we discuss here on the podcast. I teach a new topic weekly, we share stories, and we just support and love each other. It's a space I wish I had growing up, when I was clueless about how my fatherlessness affected me and yearning for a deeper connection. But I was just too paralyzed with the fear of rejection. Healing happens in community with like-minded and like-hearted people, and I would love to be in community with you. So join H.E.R Coalition at BernadetteJackson.com/community. The ladies of H.E.R Coalition get to choose the topic of weekly discussions, they get exclusive access to events, and first dibs on all that my brand has to offer. So again, join me in H.E.R Coalition at BernadetteJackson.com/community.
My approach now, so in the beginning, I did what I was shown, but now realizing that her specifically and her generation, they're a little bit more sensitive to stuff. Then I had to curb stuff, like we talked about, the spankings and the way that I discipline. I had to throw that in the trash. I had to throw all of it in the trash. So now it's like I'm in new territory, because she's smart enough to know that if I punish her, there's only like a finite amount of things I can take away. And so she's programmed herself to figure out how to survive without them, so that when you punish her, it doesn't feel to her, she doesn't want to feel like she's being punished.
Right.
So she'd be like, okay, you want my phone? Here you go. And I'm like, okay, how do you punish a kid like that? Like it's always something that I have. It's the nuances of figuring out her generation, her personally. And that is a challenge for me to try, because as she gets older, she's trying different things. She likes different things. 6 months later, it's not the phone, it's the iPad, it's the friends, it's the how late are you on the phone, and you have to. It's almost kind of like you have to learn this stuff in real time. That's really the challenge for me, is to keep up with the nuances of how fast, because the access to information and the things they see, and they're on TikTok, and this I saw this, and you have to be almost faster to make sure that it doesn't do anything that's inappropriate. So that's new. Like that right there is a full-time job in itself. It's staying ahead of technology.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's the real big takeaway, is traditional raising of kids versus this new way where, they're really focused on, things that we talk about in mental health, and you see these little kids doing these dangerous things to themselves, and at 8 years old. And so we have to be more hyper-focused on their moods, and because we never know where that's going to go, because everything's on social media. So instead of just her few friends saying it, it's, 2,000 people or whatever it is. So we have to, for me, it's just really paying attention to that. Because she went through periods where things that we would take for granted, like people teasing her, took her to a really dark place. Like, nobody's messing with me.
Yeah.
What do I do? Life is over. And I'm like, no, we got to just calm down. It's going to be okay. Where when, and people got teased throughout history, but most of us was able to kind of come out on the other side of it.
Right.
This right here is something different.
Yeah.
So it's just that. It's just like you're taking the foundation of what you know, and then you're seeing them go through it, and you're like, okay, if I keep doing it the old way, it's not going to serve her
right
in the way that it does. So it's really just figuring things out in real time. That's really the difference, is just watching the mental health stuff, the moves and the behavior, instead of like, oh, she threw a piece of paper on the floor. No, how is she feeling? How is she reacting? Because those are the things that count.
Yeah.
So that's new.
Yeah. I completely get you there. Like, I feel like I'm right there in that space as well with my daughter. Like, it's always trying to be like tapped into like what's going on in her head, and not trying to impose my expectations of what, I want her to be on her. Like, that is very, very new for me, because my expectation is like, I just want you to do this, this, and this. And one day she had to tell me like, like, that's your expectation, but that's not the view that I have of myself. And I was like, whoa, whoa, like, I did not expect this, first of all, from her, like this level of insight, for her to really pull me up like that. You know what I mean? So it's like, it's made it, so now I have to be like super intentional about like, well, is this something that she's interested in? Am I supporting her in what she wants to do? And that fine line between supporting everything that they want to do, and also being the adult to see like, you know what, this right here doesn't look like something that's going to be fruitful. How can we make this work so that you can explore this, but I'm still comfortable? So it's like that fine line right there is where I live every single day. So I completely get it. And then also, just circling back a little bit to, the punishments, where your daughter's like, she has taught herself how to live without the things that you could possibly take away for punishments. Now I'm like, you know what, if I have to punish my daughter for something, which I typically don't have to do, I'm getting super creative with it. Like, okay, you know what? Like, since I know that you're always talking about social suicide, your punishment is I'm gonna come and pick you up every single day from school, dressed in a clown outfit. Now what? How you like me now? Now you're gonna be thinking about, you know what? I'm not gonna do that again. Like, it's like you got to be thinking way outside the box with these kids now.
You have to.
You can't do nothing normal with them.
You have
it's crazy.
Yeah.
So no, I definitely get you with that. And then just even the ways that they get around that. I was watching something online, and I think this young lady was talking about her mom had taken her phone away. And so her boyfriend and her decided to open up a shared Google document and talk through the Google document.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
like,
oh, yes.
Are you serious?
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
I'm just like, this is the level of thinking that these kids are on now. And it's like, how are you matching this?
I took the phone away, and then she figured out how to go on Instagram on the computer, on the laptop, and go into the DMs over there.
Yeah.
I didn't even think about that. And then I'm like, wait, you having a full Mm-hmm. And she likes to wait until we go to sleep. And and be on it. And I'm like, so during the school year at a certain time, all of the devices be right in my room. I'll be like, go ahead and try to come in here if you want to. But that stuff gets shit, because as adults, if you're sitting in your bed with your phone, your brain you can't go to sleep.
Right. That's, man, I'm telling you, like, I promise you, like, these kids are so much ahead of us that it's scary sometimes. It's kind of things that they get into. So I definitely get that. What is one thing that you want your daughter to learn about men as a result of her relationship with you?
Hoo-wee, that's a good one. One thing, I want her to understand about men that all men aren't the same.
Mm.
And you should be able to be yourself and be open with a person that you know really cares about you. And I try to show her that through my actions. Because as the man, you know, I'm technically a boy, but I always try to let her see through my actions that there's still a level of, there's a certain level that we can meet in the middle, and we can still have those deep conversations without her fearing that I won't understand or get a lot of the stuff because I'm a man.
Right.
And that's the one lesson, is to just don't be so closed, because you may think that person may not understand you, and discard them so quickly without giving them the opportunity to get to know you.
That's good. Don't be so closed off, and don't discard them without giving them the opportunity to get to know you. So
Yep.
then are you saying then that if they don't get it right in the beginning, like that she should learn to give him grace to figure it out?
Right. Within reason. Because what I always
Mhm.
talk about with people is, if you always looking for red flags, you never see green.
Mm,
So sometimes
mm,
the red flag might be so tiny, it may be something that you can kind of work on, but because it's
mhm.
red, you're like, red, I'm not gonna
Right,
just get out my face. And
right.
you miss out on a lot of amazing people because no one's perfect. That's really the lesson. No one's perfect. And especially when you're dealing with men, if it doesn't look good, run. But if it's something that isn't so egregious that you need to run, maybe you need to kind of work a little bit just to see if it feels right instead of just running. I don't want her to run. That's why I keep her so close. Like, the one thing she won't get is as a result of me is an abandonment. Like, she ain't gonna never feel that, at least not for me, because I'm right
Right.
here. I'm like, hey, daddy. I'm like, I need
Mhm.
that hug. Give me that hug, even though
Yeah.
she don't want it. I want her to feel that I'm there. So
Mhm.
she may have a whole bunch of other issues, but she's not gonna have that one.
I feel you on that. So, what would be a piece of advice that you would give to a girl who's growing up without her father?
Whoo-wee. Um, and see, I learned so much from you now, so the answer is probably different than what I would have said a couple months ago.
Mm,
Um, um, to a girl that's growing up without her father, that's tough. There's so much that comes along with that.
yeah.
Um, what would I tell her? Just, I would say to her, if she didn't have her dad, to really spend time getting to know who she is.
Mm,
Even if that version of who she is a result of her not having her dad, to understand who she is, what she likes and what she doesn't like,
mhm.
so that when she does encounter men, no matter what level or stage they're on, she would know enough about herself to know what doesn't fit.
Mm,
Yeah,
that,
I think that's what I would say. Because a lot of times when you're emotionally charged because of the parent or the father missing, you negate the fact that you have these boundaries that you can create to make sure that you don't. So, and even without even knowing that that's what it's called, just
mhm.
spend time trying to figure out who you are, and the boundaries will naturally come, because you're going to be like, I don't like that, because I already kind of looked at me. Instead of just
Yeah.
saying I need a man, think about what you like, because I always talk about dating for wants and dating for needs, because needs are long term. Wants are
Mhm.
like right now. If you date for the long term, you'll discard a lot of people real fast, instead of saying,
Right.
oh, he's cute, oh, the hug felt good, oh, and you're searching for that. Think about, okay, one day I want to be married, one day I want to have a long-term relationship. Okay, what do you need for that long-term relationship to work?
Yeah.
Look for that in that guy on the first date. Ask those little questions based on you knowing what you want. You got to
Yeah.
start there.
Mhm. That's good. Dating for your needs and not for your wants. I love that. So, you know, we're going to get a little controversial here.
Okay.
So, women with daddy issues are often looked at negatively.
Mhm.
What is the first thing that comes to mind when someone says she has daddy issues?
The first thing that comes to mind for me, um, without thinking, I'll
Mm-hmm.
say someone that's really, really, really like either clingy or like codependent, like obsessively so.
Why do you
Um,
say that?
because it to me, it's almost kind of like that abandonment. Like
Mm-hmm.
if the dad wasn't there, I need a guarantee that you're here. So I want to hook my leg around yours while we in the bed, make sure if you move or I need to see, make sure where you going, and it starts to look real dysfunctional, and those raise flags for me to say,
Mm.
why are you really so trying to make sure of me not leaving you to the point where it becomes obsessive? Then I'm like, okay, was your dad in your life?
You really jumped to that? Like you asked,
Yeah,
you think,
like it's
hmm.
either the dad or
Mm-hmm.
it's another dude that you was in a relationship that destroyed you and he left
Mm.
or cheated and now you think I'm gonna do it. It's
Mm-hmm.
one of the two to me,
Yeah,
to
yeah,
me.
yeah.
Because I think to myself, like I was married before and that ex-wife, she used to hook her leg around mine because
Mm.
whenever I moved that night, even if it was to go to the bathroom, she needed a signal to know. And I was like, where does that come from?
Mm-hmm.
So I don't necessarily jump to dad, but
Mm-hmm.
dad is on the list though. It's either him or somebody hurt you somewhere to make you feel like you don't trust me to stay present in your life, even without any evidence of it.
Excuse me? Like what?
Daddy's
That's
on the list though. Daddy on the list. He on there.
Let me tell you something. Like that that kind of got me in my feelings a little bit, and I would tell you why.
Go
So
ahead, lay it on me.
so it's like, okay, you don't trust me to stay even without any evidence of it, even out without any evidence of you what, like saying that you're gonna leave or any evidence of
No,
you
no
saying you're
evidence
gonna
of
stay.
bad behavior, evidence of hurting you, evidence of if I'm going to 7-Eleven down the street and you're like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, it takes 10 minutes and you took
Right, right,
20.
right.
Where does that come
Okay,
from? You don't,
right.
I didn't do that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm the poster child for wrong dude. I don't,
Yeah,
where's that coming from? I don't, that's not me.
yeah,
Who did this?
yeah.
Like
No,
y'all like to
no.
say to dudes who hurt
Mhm.
you. I don't,
Right, right, right.
I'm going down the checklist. Like I'm not perfect, but I got it's all there. Where is this coming from? It's not
Yeah,
me.
yeah,
I know daddy is on the checklist though. It's
yeah.
either your one of your boyfriends or your daddy. Let's see which one it is, because that's not my I don't
No,
deserve this.
I feel you. I get you on that one. So because that's why honestly, that's why I wanted clarifications. I'm like, because for me, honestly, I feel like, and I teach this to my clients as well. This is another thing that I think that we really need to be investigating our fears. Like I think that, that's something we need to really do more of, because a lot of times there will be no evidence of this fear that you have
Mhm.
with the person that you're in a relationship with. And the fear is there because like it's all it's what's been normalized, it
Mhm.
is due to the experiences that you've had. But if there is no evidence of the fear that you have right now in this present relationship, then you really have to try and focus on what you actually see. Like the
Yeah.
fear is not real here in this moment. It's not warranted if there is no evidence that suggests that you need to be fearful at this time. And
Yep.
as hard as it is for us to, like be present in the moment, it's a skill that you really have to learn, because it's
Yeah.
like your knee-jerk reaction is like, you know what, I'm just about to launch into my fear-based responses and I'm
Mhm.
about to trauma dump all over this situation. I'm about to sabotage and I'm about to do all the things because like this is feeling like, something that I've experienced before. And it could have just been like a trigger, maybe he said something, maybe he did something or whatever it is. And instead of like being transparent about you said something that made me think of or made me feel or whatever it is
Right.
like you immediately launch into these responses, the way that you would typically handle this situation. And so that's really why I wanted to clarify, because if it is, let's say that, a person who does have issues with abandonment does not see any evidence from you to suggest that they can trust you to stay, then
Mm-hmm.
I could see how the fear would be warranted. I could see why, they may be clingy and stuff like that. And funny enough, like, to me, it's like a catch-22, because although fatherless daughters yearn for relationships with people that feel safe, where they feel like the person is not going anywhere, the evidence suggests that they want to be in connectedness with them and all of that, they will typically choose to be in relationships with people that mimic what they're used to seeing. And if what
Right.
they're used to seeing is someone who is non-committal, who is not there, who they can't trust to be there, who has broken promises and stuff like that, then they're going to be clingy because they yearn for more, but they've
Yeah.
been connecting themselves to people who are just like the thing that they want to get away from. So it's like
Yep.
that catch-22. So yeah, I get
Yeah. I
that.
think I always represented I was always the guy who may not necessarily have been your first choice, but it was kind of like a unicorn. Like,
Mm,
our dude's really like this. He's
mm-hmm,
doing exactly what I want. This, I'm not used to this. Let me try something different. And when
mm-hmm,
they would try something different, it would almost be like, and I can talk about this because it's not just one or two occurrences. This was a pattern for me.
mm-hmm,
Um, the emotional damage was something that I think I subconsciously either attracted or even sought out. Um, and then even though that's why I use the word evidence, I
mm-hmm.
would give them, because I'm the empath and I'm giving them everything. And I'm like, this is what you asked for. And it was
Mm-hmm.
like, they didn't believe it because it's not their pattern. This is,
Right.
they went and took a chance.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, wait, I always would hear, this is too good to be true. Something's going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Something's going to happen. And
Mm-hmm.
so when you talk about trauma dumping, I was a trash can. And I kept staying because it was something about me that wanted to save it. And I
Yeah.
just kept staying.
Yeah.
But the whole time they be like, yeah, something ain't right. No way you're giving me what I want. So we're just, I don't know what and I used to be like, that's why I kept saying, me? Like, of all people in the world,
Mm-hmm.
I'm just kind of mild mannered. Me?
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna do that. And they like, yeah, you a dude, so something's gonna happen. And I'm like, okay. And then, eventually it would blow up. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I stayed way too long in those things. But
Oh yeah.
I learned a lot from the experiences. And I don't necessarily say boom, daddy, but it's a guy somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
It may be
Mm-hmm.
him. It may something is making you look at me and say he's a man.
Right.
Therefore, like your whole the way that you view men in general as a whole is screwed up. It
Mm-hmm.
happened somewhere along your path because it
Yeah.
ain't me.
Yeah, yeah, it is. But you know what? Even to speak about that just a little bit, because what I have come to really, really dislike about conversations about women with daddy issues or fatherless daughters, however you want to call them, is that a lot of times women who have abandonment issues, women who have had this as their experience, are blamed for the um, the behaviors that they had to
Mhm.
develop as a
Absolutely.
result of this traumatic experience that they went through, that they were ill-equipped to handle at such a young age. And what I do not understand is why it is that more people are not asking the question, like, what happened to you versus, like, what's wrong with you? You know what I mean? Like, you said that you were introspective in terms of like, well, why is she this clingy? Like wanting to know what is underneath the surface of the actions that she's projecting. But most people will just write you off. Like, you know
Yeah.
what? Like she is like, she's damaged, or she's doing too much, or, you know, she's expecting too much, or whatever it is, like whatever it is that they're describing in terms of women with daddy issues. It's like the empathy is not there, and
Yeah.
the curiosity about what might have happened is also not there by people. It's just a, you know, a label, a judgment, and then writing off.
Yeah. This right here, like me being introspective, this is new. This isn't like
Mm-hmm.
I it has a lot to do with things we're shown, taught, conditioned. So like I I would say probably over the last few years, even not, it hasn't been a long time, of just really looking at a lot of these behaviors that we see in women
Mm-hmm.
and really saying something's a little off. Do I want to go in and double down and make it worse? Because I know I'm not ready, but I
Right.
want so but growing up, we looked at things at face value.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, this is the promiscuous girl. We never asked what's making her this way.
Right.
Nobody cared.
Yeah.
And that's the flaw.
Mm-hmm.
That's the flaw. As men, we're taught to conquer. We'll worry about the emotions later.
Mm-hmm.
Make the conquest. Make
Yeah.
as many as possible so you can feel better.
Yeah.
And you lose the connectivity. You lose the emotions. And while we're conquering you, what we don't realize is that we're adding to the damage.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then later on in life, we're looking for wifey and we're like, dang, who's not damaged? Oh,
Mm.
I don't know who, oh wait, most of them are. Oh crap, I was one of the ones that did it.
Mm-hmm.
And again, another reason why I decided to become a coach, because I'm like, you know what? You was a part of the problem. Hey, we need to figure this out because
Mm-hmm.
it looks crazy. And if more
Mm-hmm.
men like and it lends itself to like what I try to teach people, you cannot look at another human being that you know is in some kind of distress
Mm-hmm.
and just see her body and say, you know what, I'm just gonna go anyway. And we'll worry about how these men, oh, I like a crazy woman. Do
Yeah.
you?
Yeah.
Like you see the behavior. She's doing all of this, slashing tires and whatever we call. And my wife always has to bring me back to center because I used to be that guy. And she's like,
Mm-hmm.
but Derrick, I'll guarantee you she didn't start that way.
Right.
She was like my wife always tells me, literally, like every week we're looking at stuff online and my wife would be like, I guarantee you she didn't start that way. That's
Oh
not
yeah.
how girls are raised. Most
They're
girls are
not.
not raised to be crazy. Something
Yeah.
happened. And
Mm-hmm.
she's like, normally you could point it back to a dude.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, you know what? I had to think about, because I'm a man, so I had to go against my program. And I'm like, you know
Mm-hmm.
what? You're right.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm thinking back over my life and I'm like, I saw this behavior and I didn't care.
Yeah.
I just wanted what I wanted, and we'll worry about the fallout later.
Right.
And it's the most damaging thing ever. And this lends itself to this conversation about Black women not feeling protected. And we don't care. And it starts from when we're like in grade school. Men are trained not to care about you, the human being. We're trained to care about what we can get from you.
Mm.
And it becomes so socialized that you get a pat on the back. How many numbers you get? How many did you sleep with her yet? No, we just talking. Man, you better hurry up and go get that. Oh, if I don't go get it, I'm not gonna get the praise. So let me go and do something that I know isn't particularly what I wanted to do, but I need their approval. I need their validation. Those are my boys.
Right.
Most of us go through that. And then later in life, we get in our 30s and our 40s and like, then we start caring about y'all.
Mm-hmm.
And then we want to get married. And it's like, and then we get in a marriage and we wonder why something just off. And it's like, and we normally don't share this with each other, but it's like, most of us have some kind of damage.
Yeah.
And we got to figure it. We got to be able to speak openly, whether it's therapy, whether it's coaching, whatever.
Mhm.
We all got some stuff.
Yeah, we do. We do. We do. And I think that honestly, the sooner that we can all understand that we all got some stuff, the easier it is going to be for people to stop being so judgmental and start asking people like, how can I help you work through your stuff? You know what I mean? Because I feel like that in and of itself is just what most people want, like somebody who is going to not judge them, who is going to, help them to see who they are and see like, what areas they can improve on or shine a light in some places that they may not see. So yeah,
Yeah.
like
Where I found my true power as a man was when I would always run into these women that would want to always jump to sex, like right now.
Mm-hmm.
So much that it didn't feel, and for me to say, no, I can't do that because it's some, I don't know what it is, but it doesn't feel right. No, a man that can do that has a power. And what it does to that woman, if enough of them do that, then she's going to have to look inward and say, why?
Mm-hmm.
Why is this behavior turning them off?
Right.
But that doesn't happen. That doesn't happen. But if that was the case, if that young man was 18 or 20 and he said, I'm not ready,
Mm-hmm.
it's too fast.
Mm-hmm.
Let me get to know you. So when we do whatever happens, it'll be done because we vetted each other out and did whatever. If that happens at 18,
Mm-hmm.
then the man and the woman now create a behavior pattern that doesn't lead to so much dysfunction.
Right.
Because everybody can't get a chance.
That's true.
So yeah.
That right there, I think is some of the reason why I do what I do, because just as you said, like you were a part of the problem, so now you want to be a part of the solution. For me, it was that I couldn't find the solutions anywhere. And it's like, I do not think that there are enough spaces where people are really trying to teach you the skill of having great relationships. And it's like, because great relationships do not fall on trees. They don't grow on trees just because two people are willing to be in one. Like the level of work that's required, like, is mind-boggling sometimes, because it's like this is a completely new individual that you have to try and integrate into your space, into your life. And how do you do that successfully without losing yourself, without neglecting your needs and desires and all of that? I mean, it takes a lot of skill and just the trial and error, like, it could be so frustrating going through that. So, I mean, I commend the work that you're doing, and then just also the fact that you're able to be so introspective and just use like, what you've learned about yourself to raise your daughter. It's, I just want to say thank you, because honestly,
it's unfortunately, and I talk about it a lot, it's a cycle that we don't look at. Like, I did a lot of bad stuff, but I did a lot of bad stuff because I was hurt by women. And then it's like, but who hurt them?
Right.
And then, it just keeps repeating itself. And it's like, he's a bad man, he's a player, he's this and he's that. And then if you go back in his history, somebody hurt him in 11th grade. And then you're like, well, what made that woman so heartless to want to hurt him? Was it her father? Was it it always like the chicken and the egg. So it's not to, like I always tell people, it's not to excuse the behavior, but everything has an origin story. If you go back far enough. And when I looked at what I was doing, I had a ridiculous amount of empathy and love until it was snatched away from me by several women. And then I turned into something else to protect myself. And then I hurt women in turn. And then those women that I hurt, they're probably going to hurt another man. And he's going to turn into something. And then she going to run into somebody else. She's going to have a kid. And then that kid's going to inherently get that stuff without even going through a relationship. They just going to be out there already dysfunctional without the same stuff we had to go through. And then they're going to be like, it's, when you really think about it, my brain just, when I really looked at that, I was like, I created a woman that's possibly going to hurt a man just like the one that hurt me.
Right.
I did that. That almost brought me to tears, because when people are out here in the dating scene and they're like, oh, she crazy. Oh, she doing that. And I'm like, what if it was another Derrick that made her like that?
Mm.
And when she has a kid, what is she going to teach them? Because she's broken now because of me. Oh, it hurts.
Yeah.
But that's why now, like when I look at women, I look at women in a whole, especially Black women, I look at women in a whole different light now, because I'm like, and that's why I always try to pull these guys up, and I'm like, hold on, man. It's not the accountability. This ain't cool, because you're destroying her. That's somebody's mother. You meet a woman with 3 kids and you're going to play her. What do you think she's going to be to them once you leave, after you destroy her? Right. And what are they going to see? Like that, it bothers me. We got a whole mission on our hands, Bernadette.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do. Yes, we do. And it has to start and end with accountability. So like, I love that you just said that, because that is, that's where it's at, honestly. Like, you have to be accountable to yourself, but also to the people who you come in contact with. Like, it's just, common courtesy, So, yeah. So at the end of every interview, I like to do Bernadette's quick 5. So it's 5 questions. You're going to answer with the first thing that pops into your head. There's no right or wrong answers. You ready?
Okay. Yep, I'm ready.
Right. Okay. Would you be happy if your 18-year-old daughter brought home the 20-year-old version of you?
20-year-old, yes.
Yeah. Okay.
I didn't become dangerous until I was about 25, 24, 25. 20-year-old version of me was, whatever you like, how you doing, I'm here, meet the parents. Ooh. I was that dude.
Love it. All right. What is your hope for your daughter?
I hope, in her current state of mind, I hope that she learns that it's okay to expand, like, her social, like, just getting to know different people, especially with this COVID thing. She just wants to keep it like right here, and she's missing out on a lot of interactions because she wants to stay so closed in, and she's found comfort there, which bothers me a little bit, because I want her to be able to be social so that she can see how human beings interact, and I want her to be a part of that. So if I say anything, I would want for her to just be a productive, like, member of society and not be afraid, not have that fear.
Yeah, I love that. What is one word that you would use to describe your daughter's personality?
Eclectic.
Oh, okay.
She all over the place. All over the place.
I love it. All right. What warning would you give the young man taking your daughter out for her first date? Or piece of advice, if not warning?
Don't hurt her. It's really that simple. Don't do anything that's going to hurt her. And if you feel like you do, you need to leave. Period. Because kids are going to be kids. They're going to do what they want to do. But that's where the buck stops for me.
Okay. And the last question, are you giving your daughter mace, or are you taking her to get her gun license, or what, to keep herself safe on these streets? What would you do?
Knee-jerk reaction, I would say mace.
Okay.
And the reason why is not that I don't want her to protect herself, but one of them is going to put you in jail probably.
Okay.
Right? Because if you're protecting yourself, you're in danger, self-defense, go ahead and get the gun. But you just having that at your disposal and you shoot somebody, it's up to interpretation. So if you need to use it, like, I'm not that guy, like, oh, we got a whole bunch of guns at the house and we going to, that's just not me. Right. I think about the worst case scenario. What if you pissed off one day? Now you in jail because you shot somebody. Yeah. If you mace them, you going home.
Yeah.
So that's just me, though. I know I'm not the gun lobbyist type of person, and my parents never had guns. I don't have them. I understand the need to protect your home and your family, but just for her to have one, just in case somebody, comes up on her or whatever, and you shoot him, who's to say what it is? Like, this is a lot of gray.
Yeah.
And do I want her to be in that position if she doesn't have to?
That is honestly, like, I didn't even think about that, but that's so real though. Like, what if she's having a bad day? Because that bad day could definitely be the difference between her saying, like, you know what, bro, like, you need to go on somewhere and
It's
I
just
got
like
something
how I
for you
live
real
my
quick.
life, right? If I'm
Yeah.
fighting a guy fist to fist, and then we land on the pavement, and I'm bashing his head on the sidewalk,
Right.
Because I'm angry.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to jail.
Yeah.
So I have a decision to make, whether I want to go that far or do I want to walk away from it. And you can call me a punk all you want to. I'm not going to jail for some dude I don't know. Like that, just how I live my life. I don't have these I've had dudes step to me and I'm like, you know what, you got it. Unless you messing with my family, why do I need to go? You know what I do for work? I'm not losing that. Like we not having no record because I got pissed off because somebody stepped on my shoe. Like, come on, I'm a grown man.
No, I get it.
So that's how I don't want her to walk around just knowing that she could just shoot somebody. But I know that this isn't like, I understand the other school of thought too. Like, make sure you protect yourself. I think of it more like I'm protecting my home. But if you just willy-nilly like, I don't like that dude. Yeah, let me go ahead and
Yeah, I definitely get that. That makes a lot of sense. So Derrick, this has been such a great interview. I always love talking to you. So I'm glad that you were able to come into my space for this conversation. Cool. I wanted to give you the opportunity to just give the final word. So, you can let us know one more gem if you want to, and then just let us know how we can stay connected with you.
Okay, so for this particular episode in the title, the gem I want to leave to men, to fathers, potential fathers, you are the example for what they will look for later. And you have to lead with that every single day of your life, because you're going to be a dad for the rest of your life. You may not be perfect. Your situation may not be perfect, but how you connect with her matters. And that's going to fuel her choices. You want her to start with that as a baseline. Even if she veers off, she knows that you are connected to her in that way. That's one of the most important gems I want to drop. It means everything, because as an almost 48-year-old man, I've seen what the other side looks like. I've seen these women that's 40 and just destroyed. And we have the option as fathers, no matter what the situation, to let that daughter know that it's going to be okay and that you got her back. Don't matter what your situation is. I know there's a lot of tumultuous things, especially if you're not with the mom and all of that, but your daughter has to see better from you. So as far as reaching me, it's real simple. relationshipgumbo.info online. Everything funnels from that one site. All the social media, Instagram. I do my Relationship Gumbo podcast every Wednesday night at 8 p.m. live on YouTube. So all that information is in that one website, relationshipgumbo.info. And that's it. Thank you for having me.
Yes, thank you for coming. Thank you so much, Derrick. All right. So we'll see you. Bye. Bye.